Hey, I'm Rebecca.
I'm Catherine.
This is Not A Solicitation.
We gotta work on that.
How you doing?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah, me too. It's a freaking great day. The weather's getting nicer. Goodbye, dreaded cold. I hate the cold so much. If you live in the Northeast, I just checked your weather and it's so cold.
I just checked your personal weather.
It's so cold. And I'm just so glad that we live here on this beautiful Saturday in South Carolina.
It's like 65-ish degrees right now and it's February 1st.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's amazing. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a few things. So first off, this is not a solicitation. And we're probably not going to start episodes like this for very much longer because we've been cranking these puppies out. But just as a quick reminder, this is an episode, a podcast in general. This is a podcast.
In general.
Okay. Just as a reminder, the whole point of this podcast is honest dialogue about what we're seeing as two realtors operating in the Carolinas. The goal is for us to get better at our craft, share a little bit with consumers about what they can expect from a real estate transaction in terms of buying and selling, and maybe a little bit about what they should ask for or look for in a great realtor. Realtors, this is also a lot for you. We want to be having conversations about how we can be improving our industry from the inside out. We all know that there's kind of a shady reputation when it comes to real estate agents.
Yeah, it's really strange.
Yep.
But we also don't really think it's strange at the same time because of what we've seen and how much craziness has gone on in the industry with people that are supposed to be professionals.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard out here. It's hard to be a really good realtor unless you've been shown how to. So in a combination of a bunch of experience and also great training and pouring water all over yourself, in case you didn't catch that, we have a ton to share. And honestly, we also have a ton of great friends in not just the realtor world, but in our adjacent vendor world who make our lives better and make our clients' lives easier. And that leads us into what we're going to be talking about.
That was a phenomenal valedictorian speech. Today we're talking about our vendors that we work with, our partners that we work with, and what does that look like. So attorney partners, meaning your preferred attorney. Your office might have one that they recommend that you can develop a relationship with, or you may have developed a relationship with one on your own. But it's always important to have a Rolodex of people, whether that's the attorney or a title company, depending on where you are, and we'll touch on that in a bit. Contractors, plumbers, anything, you name it, painters. Like, it's very important for you to have a Rolodex of people available to you, but more importantly than anything else, it's important to have a professional, I want to say kind, but like, I don't think that's the right word, just like a very professional relationship with them. And the reason kind is coming to mind is because the whole idea around this episode was we've seen agents and heard, stories of agents acting crazy.
Like a fool.
Like a total fool during a deal and just acting very overly assertive where it becomes aggressive and just extremely unprofessional, and it makes everyone uncomfortable, and it's going to make the transaction more difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of players in a real estate transaction that aren't the buyer and the seller. One party is, of course, the realtor. There might even be two realtors, often there are, but there's actually a lot of other people involved in a transaction. So if you're a consumer, you might not know that, and if you're a realtor, you also might not know that. Unless you've been through a couple deals, I'll be vulnerable. I had no idea what went into closing a house. And every transaction looks different. The people involved are going to be different, not just on an individual level, but in terms of what services are required. What service providers are involved. It's going to look different every time. So approaching this episode, realtors, with some grace would be a good idea. If you are having a bad day and you just don't really feel like accepting some hard truths and maybe some ownership, not the episode for you, girl.
That's for sure.
Not the episode. Go hang out, listen to some T-Swift, and come join us next week, because what we're going to talk about today is not necessarily going to make realtors look great at first, because what we're really talking about is realtors, how your communication and your relationship with these vendor partners can affect a transaction and your reputation and, by default, your clients.
Yeah, making or breaking the deal.
Yes, making or breaking the deal.
So we are actually going to segue into something new that we haven't really done yet, with a vendor partner of ours, or two really vendor partners of ours that we work with all the time on all the deals in our office. So you're going to get to hear from them today. I think we're just gonna bleep out their names. So they're for all of this podcast purpose. I don't know what we'll refer to them as, but it's not gonna be by their names.
Well, let's just say this before we jump into it. These are two women who we really trust. We work with them all the time. But they are professionals too. So like we are asking this of them. They are definitely not knocking on our door begging to come
Let me
on.
tell you about these terrible
Let me tell you
realtors.
the
No,
story.
we asked them.
That's
important to tell.
But they do have places of work, so we're going to be bleeping out their names. If you know who they are, there's nothing that they say that's going to offend you. But just for the record, they do have places of work, so that's why we're bleeping out their name.
Just to be.
We're asking people to be really raw, right, and candid, and we forget sometimes that we're independent contractors and we work for ourselves. So not everybody is that.
Word. Yep. All right. So this will be when we cut to the video.
Yep.
I've never recorded on Google Meet, so there's a first time for everything. Okay. So first of all, thank you both for joining me today. Catherine could not be here because she's a busy, busy girl. So we have some questions for you guys, and we're really excited to get some insight because we're talking a lot on this episode about proper etiquette when working with partners. And we're lucky enough where we get to work with you guys all the time, and you guys are amazing at what you do. But not to say that you guys complain about it, because you don't. But there are times where I hear, like, through whether it be at an office or whether it be through other transactions and things, like there's other stuff going on. And sometimes I've heard things and I'm frankly shocked at the way that agents speak to their partners and the people they work with. And especially you guys. I mean, I'm going to get defensive over that because I love you guys, but just shocking how things can be sometimes. So starting with you in 2 to 3 sentences or words or whatever. What do you do? Don't say who you work for. What do you do? And what is your title? What do you do for work?
I am a real estate paralegal. I mainly just do residential or resale closings.
Cool.
Mhm.
Okay. How long have you been in the real estate facing world and when it comes to this stuff?
Almost 4 years now.
4?
Mm-hmm.
For a second, I thought you said 40, and I was like, you're not even close to 40. You need to back it up.
Don't do that to me. I already need some Botox. Don't do that to me.
No, I know you're not. So I was like, stop. Okay, cool. So almost 4 years. What were you before that? What area of law?
So no law. I actually did logistics, or I managed warehouses for about 10 years.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense why you know how to have your hands all over the place all the time. Tell me the most rewarding communication interaction you've had with a realtor.
I don't know. I do get a lot of compliments over I guess just me and my communication. Apparently that's not common with law firms. So that's just really rewarding when agents just kind of compliment me on my communication and give so nice too. So
Good to know.
yeah. But yeah, just receiving a compliment at all is really nice to know that what you're doing matters.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Give me an example of a poor experience you've had working with an agent. I'm sure you've had so many.
I have had a lot, but most of the time, I don't think the frustration is really aimed toward me. A lot of it really, I think, comes from a lack of knowledge, especially about title work. And if there's errors in title or back in the chain, I really just think it's kind of a lack of knowledge for some agents. And they, of course, want to blame someone. And you're right there, so they're going to blame you. So if there's a delay in title work, they're going to get upset. I've had people mad at me for that. Or I have a lot of stuff with estate issues. A lot of agents don't understand the process when it comes to estates. So they'll get upset and, wonder, well, why can't you close? Like, I can go to another attorney and I can close. And I'm like, you can do that, but your buyer's not going to get clear title.
Yeah. And you still have to go through everything all over again.
Yeah. So really I've just had a lot of agents who are frustrated because they don't understand the process. It's really a lack of knowledge, and it'll come with experience. So
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what we were talking about and what we're talking about on this episode is like, I think a lot of the time this profession attracts that kind of personality, unfortunately, and it's too easy to just pop off on somebody, and it's never the way to get things done, like ever. So I'm glad you said that, because I mean, you're a human, right? Like it doesn't feel good to be spoken to that way. Like obviously, you're going to do your job and get it done at the end of the day, but it doesn't feel good. And it's like, it doesn't make for a good working experience. So.
No, it definitely doesn't. But normally, you know, with me and my personality, I just tell them God bless and hang the phone up.
You're just the best. I love that. What is some advice that you would give? And you kind of already did already, but what advice you would give to a realtor who's open to growing and being in this field?
I definitely think just being able to expand their knowledge in estates or in title work and how the whole process is, that's going to help tremendously for a successful agent. The more you know, the better you're going to be, and the more you're going to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, especially estates, y'all.
Yeah.
I've had a
Yeah, I bet. They're
Yeah.
confusing. I know we're wrapping up one right now and getting ready to close on it, and you made it really easy. Like I was shocked, but it's very confusing. And I think that I know that you have all the experience. So for people that are listening to this who haven't done it before, ask questions, because anytime I've ever called you, you're always willing to answer.
Yeah, just always ask questions. And it's okay, because there's no dumb questions in real estate. I've heard it 100 times, and there really is no dumb question, because the good thing about real estate, you're going to learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Every transaction is different, and that's what will benefit us all in the long run.
So it makes it so much fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What was your very first job?
Whew. Subway.
Oh, that's so fun. What did you do? Were you on the line making sandwiches?
I did. I'd make the best dang sub you ever had, girl.
I love that. Oh man, that's really funny. That is exciting. I love hearing this. This is Catherine's favorite question. She wrote Kat's favorite question. I'm like, who's Kat? But Catherine's favorite question. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you. Next up, and you ladies work together very often, so I think it's really cool that you can talk and like bounce off each other. I'm gonna bleep that out. You're not gonna know who she really is, everybody.
I actually think based off of Erica's stuff that's, you know, we can be pretty, honestly, you will talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Hello.
tell me, ma'am, your current title and what do you do?
Okay, so my position is interesting. I am a title service manager. I am a liaison between a closing attorney and a brokerage. So the best way that I like to describe my position is an extra set of eyes for real estate agents throughout the closing process once it gets under contract. So,
and we sure do need those eyes.
I think it's an awesome position. I think it is needed as well. I do think it adds a lot of value to the closing attorney. So
yeah. I don't think a lot of people see it. And I know that we've dealt with a lot of transactions over the last year and more coming and have to come, but I don't think a lot of people see how much you're doing behind the scenes and how much you help. So I couldn't agree with you more. How long have you been in real estate, in a real estate facing role?
So going on 4 years, which is fun. One of my first jobs out of college was an orders entry and moved up to like a closing assistant underneath a paralegal. So for a real estate attorney. So that was fun. And then I came back to it more on the marketing, sales side, logistics side of it a couple years later. Once I realized I do like the sales world a little bit. And I love the real estate world as well. I love the ups and downs of it. But yeah, 4 years, which makes me obviously like it pretty much.
Yeah, that's for sure. They say that the average tenure of someone like a real estate agent, but I guess even for someone in real estate is, I think after like year 4, they say like usually like you're going to stick with it. I think after year 5, like most people don't do it. And in the first year, 80% of real estate agents quit. 80%. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
Aren't you not surprised though? Because think about how many names you've seen and heard over the years that you never heard again, you know?
It's a hard industry to be successful in.
It is.
And I think you guys on your first podcast talked about if you want to get into real estate as a real estate agent, do not think that your life is going to be more, less hectic. Like, yes, you are your own boss. You do make your own schedule, but you will never meet a successful, lazy real estate agent.
That's for damn sure. Yes, thank you for saying that because it's so true. I mean, gosh. What is the most rewarding communication that you've had with a realtor?
So kind of going off of Erica's response as well, it's hard for me to pinpoint an exact interaction that I can just be like, oh, this was amazing. I think it is relationships built over time. I think once you can communicate with once you have a real estate agent, their needs, their wants, they communicate efficiently. The relationship that you can build is truly so rewarding because it's just easier. It's easier to work for that person. It's easier to show up for that person. And it just makes it a little bit more enjoyable once that communication line and it's crossed. We've gotten personal. We can get to know each other. Obviously we could do that with you guys because we've been able to build that relationship with you.
Mhm.
So I mean, just going off of that and not just trying to just say this because it's you guys' podcast, but the communication that you guys provide for us is rewarding because it does make our jobs easier. So if everybody could just do exactly what you guys do, that would be a beautiful world.
It's fun. And honestly, I think I love that. I feel the same way about you guys. I hate when I get stuck with another attorney because in South Carolina, where we are, the buyer typically picks the attorney. So for us, sometimes if I'm working with a buyer, I have to like counter and be like, please, can we work with them instead? Because it's not the same. And you guys know how we are. And like, also I have to say, like, anytime I've ever called or texted you guys and need help with something, you're there. And it's hopefully always the same with us. So it's like, to have that mutual understanding and respect, it just goes so far beyond just this. Like, and I love our relationship that we have, but it shows to the clients as well. And that's really at the end of the day, what matters the most when you're trying to build your business. So I totally, an example of a poor experience working with a real estate agent.
Another kind of broad experience and spectrum on this one. I think when you are in a real estate transaction that there are emotions high from your clients. And I think the real estate agents, they do want to kind of advocate for their clients. And sometimes the emotions can get high with that. And I think the most poor experiences that I have where it kind of like leaves that bad taste in the mouth is when real estate agents kind of throw other professionals under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think based off of even just how you conduct your business, that the way that you communicate to your clients, and if you take accountability, that I think was going to make your business grow more and make you more successful in the long run. But like I said, it's an emotional industry. This is sometimes the biggest purchase that someone will ever make in their entire life. Of course, the emotions are going to be high. That goes into the real estate agent, and then the real estate agent kind of sometimes takes that out on the closing attorney because we are that front face right in front of you.
Right. And it's so frustrating because it's not our job to operate that way.
But once again, you guys don't operate that way. You do take accountability of something. If you were to make a mistake, we're all human. And not every closing is going to go as smoothly as we would like it to be. And we can take accountability for that if that does happen and do everything we can to turn it around for that person's experience. But like you said earlier, we are humans, we make mistakes, and the way that we speak to people and especially in a professional setting, it really goes a long way. So
yeah. Any advice to a future realtor or current one, whoever, that wants to grow in this field and continue to have a long-lasting, successful business?
Yes. And I love this question for the sole purpose of, I do love the brokerage that you guys work for right now, for the sole purpose of you guys do train your agents. You guys do have intensive training for your brokerage, whether it's on title, on the closing side of it, on the lender side of it. I think the more knowledge that you have is the more successful that you're going to be. And that goes beyond just how you can interact with clients. That's how well do you know the process? If something were to go wrong, how well are you going to be able to communicate it? Right. And I think the more knowledge you have, the better you can communicate. Mm-hmm. So go to the classes. If you have a brokerage that offers them, go to those classes. Knowledge is power. So
yeah, dude,
the more you know, the more you can accomplish.
The last brokerage I worked at, there was like this set of like rules that they had, like not really rules, more like fundamentals to live by. And one of them that always stuck with me that I love was be the expert. And it's like, it's just so good because like you can never know like enough, right? Like can tell me something. You can tell me something. I'm not supposed to say your names. I'm going to bleep them out. Whatever.
It's okay.
You guys can tell me something, but then I articulate it to the client. And like you said, like if you don't know what you're explaining, you end up looking, number one, you can confuse them more. Two, just don't look like you know what you're talking about. And too often, if you don't, you are going to freak out this person that's got thousands and thousands of dollars on the line. And it's just too important to not know. So, and if you don't know, don't be afraid to, like you said, admit it and like admit like, hey, I'm not the expert. Let me get this person that is. So I love that. What was your first job ever?
I was a soccer referee.
Oh, that is so you too.
Yeah, I loved it. I miss it. I wish I could still do that.
That's so fun. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to cut this real quick. Thank you guys so much. This was amazing. How do I stop the recording?
After watching all of that, we have some notes and some things we wanted to talk through and kind of reiterate from what we heard our two lovely ladies say. One of the first thing is of title work in estates.
Yeah.
And because we've definitely done a good amount, you're closing out on one right now.
Yeah.
We kind of forget how difficult it can be, and it's difficult because there's so many steps to the process. And something that Erica said was just be educated around it, like get educated. And we were talking about that just before this, and something that Catherine brought up was calling an attorney and an attorney partner that you trust.
Yeah, common thread, not just in this conversation, but realtors, I'm sure this is not a surprise. Anytime that you're having a conversation with somebody who's really specialized, like somebody who's got a job like the two people we just talked to, a home inspector, a lender, etc., someone who's hyper specialized, they know their shit. Like they know it inside and out. And a lot of the time their gripes with realtors stem from a lack of understanding of that specialty. And I don't know about you, but I love talking about my job and like my specialty.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time vendors are so willing if you were to reach out and say, hey, do you have a lunch and learn? I'm seeing a lot of that, especially from home inspectors.
Yeah.
Especially now. I'm seeing, a lot of attorneys, paralegals, etc., will make themselves available, maybe not for a whole lunch, but maybe for a 15-minute phone call. I'll be vulnerable, and I will admit that we've done a ton of work with estates, but if you sell with an estate, it is a very specific transaction. There's lots of steps involved. Just as a quick plug, if you are a property owner, the best thing you can do for your family in the entire world and your loved ones in general is have a will. Because we see the ugly side of the world when there isn't a will in place and there's a lot of steps to get that property sold. Anyway, the first time I ever worked with some folks who were selling the estate of their deceased daughter, very sensitive transaction, a lot of family involved. There were some debts that we weren't aware of that came up right at the end of the transaction. And in hindsight, I was a baby realtor. I mean, I'd had my license a matter of months.
Yeah.
And I know in hindsight, I didn't ask all the questions I could have to find out if there were debts that needed to be settled,
Right.
and we could have been proactive. We've had to push closing out, literally 2 months. It was a whole thing. And I think about that sometimes now, because you're right, we're settling in a state right now, and I knew the steps like the back of my hand, but only because I'd seen it play out, I'd asked the right questions, the wrong questions, whatever way you want to look at it, so yeah.
Even doing it one time is not enough, and that's the
No.
thing is you don't want to get stuck because the first time is never going to be easy, and you're not going to understand what's going on. And honestly, I think sometimes attorneys just are moving. And side note, if whatever state you're in, it depends. You either are working with a closing attorney or a title company. We work with closing attorneys, and either way, there's going to be a title company involved. But
Yeah.
some states will have you go directly to the title company. So just a side
There
note.
might not be an attorney that's needed at this
Right.
point. Like if, for example, in Florida, you'll work directly with a title company. A lot of title companies in Florida have an attorney on call for when is needed. But yeah, which is so weird to me because in the Carolinas we work directly with closing attorneys and there's a title.
Well, in New Jersey, the closing attorney negotiates
That's right.
inspections and repairs. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, every state does it differently, but they're still an attorney state.
And the point is, it's a legal conversation. There's contracts involved, so there can be an attorney involved if needed, if there isn't heavily involved already.
Right.
And then there is title work to be done, and in the most basic sense possible, that is the paperwork needed to prove that the home can be transferred in terms of ownership from one party to the next, and that all parties have the legal right to give and accept. That's the basics of that. But the point is, that work is getting done in every transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we talked about, you know, knowledge and stuff like that, I think one of the biggest things is a lot of the times agents, when you get caught not knowing something and you know, you probably should have known, or even if it's not the case like that, if you don't know something, our ego can get in the way and we can sound kind of, you know, dumb and rude, and popping off on an email is like the last thing you want to do. Like, there have been so many times where my hot-headed self has wanted to pop off on an email, and it's just, and I've probably done it. I can think of one I'm embarrassed of even recently, but I try my absolute hardest, because you don't want to sound like an unprofessional idiot. It really does make you sound that way, and it's not good. It's not appropriate. And again, I think the biggest thing to take from this is you won't be able to develop a good relationship with these people that you're working with. And relationships, like they say, they're everything in this business. That doesn't just mean with your client. That means with every single person in your area that is doing professional work on a home with people, or anything like that. So,
I mean, by no means am I accusing people of forgetting you just because you're not nice to them, or like they're not going to do their job thoroughly and professionally if you aren't buying them gifts. Like, nobody's saying that. But I can tell you with honesty that there have been times where we've had to phone in a favor. Very recently, an attorney who our team uses all the time was not involved in a transaction that I was a part of. And they literally came to the rescue.
Yeah, they did.
The rescue for us. They had absolutely no obligation to do so. And I can promise you that's not because they like need the money, like, you know, they're hoping for good publicity from it. Like, they're good. They did it because there's a relationship there, and you know, it's not just about being nice, like we're respectful of what they do
and their time, and appreciative. I think that they even mentioned it, like, it's so important to be appreciative of the work that they're doing, because it's a lot more than we all realize behind the scenes, and they have like 50 of us at once.
So nobody's not going to do their job because you're not nice to them, but it is an unrealistic expectation of people to go the extra mile for you if you're mean to them, if you're disrespectful towards what they do, and if you don't take them up on it. Like, I can promise you right now, I could Google it and find 5 home inspectors that are running lunch and learns in February in the upstate area alone. And, you know, those are things that I want to go to those things too. I promise you, I'm not a home inspector. I'm not claiming that I, you know, have nothing to learn here.
That's like my favorite thing in the world. I love, like, go to home inspections. Go to every home inspection you can go to. Read every report you can and call the inspector and ask questions, and you will be a better realtor through and through. Sorry.
Agreed. Just, if we're not taking vendor partners up on those things, and then we're still asking them questions that reflect that, like, the lunch and learns go away. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to stop offering help when we don't take it, in theory. But yeah.
Something else we have written down that we were chatting about while we were watching this video, countering with your preferred attorney. I don't know about every state, but in the Carolinas, if you're watching this, definitely a great tool, because if you're on the listing side, very often buyers are the ones selecting the attorney, or proposing the attorney, if you will, on the offer. So we always like to, as long as our clients are okay with it, and you know, we are showing them additional vendors that they can use, additional attorney options, but a lot of our clients develop a good relationship with us, so they trust the people that we go to and use all the time. So you can counter with your preferred attorney, and I think it's a really great idea, because I mean, it just makes the transaction go so much smoother when everyone has a process that they're aware of each other's processes. You work together better, and it's a great tool. So
Rebecca, like, you're not giving yourself enough credit on that. Like, she consistently will provide value to her clients by, you know, presenting them the best of the best with vendors, but I think it's very clever to counter back offers. Like, it goes to show that, you know, final and best, when we talk about your final and best offer, like, it could be any term that sways in terms of how the transaction goes. You know, I won't say names, because why would we do that? But I know that when I got to this market center, you gave me advice on maybe some attorneys that weren't so awesome, that you had done work with, that it wasn't, like, you know, you'd kind of done that work for me. And your reputation matters.
It's so important.
You know?
The biggest thing, like, that you can have is a good reputation, because a lot of people have bad ones, and you don't want to be one of them.
Yeah, and that goes for realtors. Like, think about it. When you send off that email and you pop off on that person, are you reflecting poorly on your brokerage, on your team, on yourself?
What if someone screenshots you and puts it on Google, just saying? That's my biggest fear. One time someone screenshotted I'll never comment on anything on social media again. One time I commented on a country post saying that Hardy, the country singer, if you know, you know. I guess he's country, like whatever. I literally said Hardy rules, like you guys suck, because everyone was being a hater. And I'll never comment on anything ever again, ever. Because I see what people comment. So for me to get picked up like this is terrible. It's terrible! Someone screenshotted my comment and put it on our team Google page and like gave me a 2-star and said how terrible I was, and like that was mean. That was mean. We got it removed because I did never worked with this person, and that's a business
Just
page,
an internet
so
troll.
not cool. But yeah, so I don't know why I just
Hardy sponsor
told
this
that
podcast.
story. Yeah, sponsor us, please.
But
yeah.
I mean, the point is how you present yourself when you're in sales, when you're in real estate, when you're running a business, whatever way you want to cut it. Your appearance, not just how your hair looks, like your appearance as a professional precedes itself.
And last thing that I really think is so important, pointing fingers is like the ugliest look ever when it comes to this stuff. Like, even if the lender partner that you're working with did drop the ball, like let's be real, they forgot to have your seller or buyer sign the disclosures in time, right? Or who knows, they forgot to send a document over that needed to get signed before closing. Even if they're the ones that made that mistake, it's so important to take ownership in that moment and not be like, well, I'm not the one that did it. It was the lender. So like, I've seen it happen, we've heard it. It's such an ugly look. It makes you look like a fool.
It makes you look weak. It's
Yeah.
funny you say fool, I say weak. It makes you look like you can't solve a problem.
Yeah.
Like, it almost implies that the other parties that you're speaking poorly of, it was on them to solve a problem to begin with. You know what I mean? Like,
Also, if you're telling your client that, you're probably gonna rile them up, like, and get them even more anxious and nervous or mad, whatever emotions they're feeling, and that's literally the opposite of your job.
right.
So,
And we're omitting the most obvious one, which is, as a realtor, speaking poorly of your cooperative agent, the other realtors involved, the biggest no-no in the game, y'all.
for sure.
Once again, it's no secret that some people are bad at their job
Yeah.
in the world. I just don't believe that people wake up and choose to suck, though. I just don't. So just remember that if somebody drops the ball, someday it's going to be you. You're lying if you have never dropped the ball. That's just ridiculous. At work,
I've never done it.
I'll let you know, but odds are someday it's going to be you, and it's not about phony in favors, it's about like respectful responses. Am I saying that people should just forgive you for like effing something up? No. But I think it's important to stay solution oriented.
Yeah, asking what else you could do to help.
Yes.
Like, wow, like, hey, thank you so much. What else is there anything else you need for me to get this done smoothly?
And where I'm going with this is like, as a realtor, if part of your mission in your business is not to correct the public perception of a realtor, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak poorly of an agent in a transaction, even if they're the worst agent I've ever worked with. I'm not
Seriously,
going
and
to.
I want to so bad.
You
I
know
want
what?
to so bad.
You should have people to call for that.
Yeah.
Call your mom, call your friend, call your aunt, call your pastor, call somebody else, make their problem. Don't take it to your clients and to that other realtor, because again, what are we here for? We're here to add value. We're here to
Oh Lord. We are here because our mission is to stop the bullshit. Stop the hate.
Okay, for real. We're here to make sure that we're here to do right by our clients. We're here to get the job done, get our bills paid
Yes.
at the end of the day, right? So
Sell some real estate, but do
Sell
it
some
right
houses.
and make sure that we do our best to educate the public, agents, future agents, whoever's out there, and also consumers alike, that
yeah.
we can be really good at this, and you need us just as much as we need you.
And make some friends. The thing about real estate is it really is a lifestyle. I don't have hours. I work for myself. I'm always working, whatever way you want to look at it. And like, when we interact with those two women, I'm pointing at your phone because
When we interact with these two women.
when we interact with those two people, I like enjoy myself. Like,
It's a great time.
Yeah, we don't like hang out every day. We're not like
No.
besties like that. But I genuinely enjoy them as people.
Yeah.
I feel closer to them after 2 lunches
Yeah.
and like a couple phone calls. You get close to people. And it makes me feel less and less like I'm working every day when I surround myself with people
That's such a good point.
like you know that guy you work with who you hate? Imagine if you could vote him off the island. Because you can do that as a realtor.
You really can.
You really can. You can go out there and find a better one and replace that person.
Yeah.
And it's like you get to hang out with people who do a really good job, do right by your clients,
Care
and
about
by
their
you. Yeah, it's so much easier to pour into those people. So I encourage you to align yourself with a realtor who speaks highly of the people in their Rolodex. I can't believe you referred to it that way.
I love that word.
Rolodex makes you sound 85, but okay. Align with people who like the people that they work with, because I'm going to remind you, again, this is a really important consumer note. Realtors choose who they suggest. You get to choose
That's for
often
sure.
who you ultimately work with. Oftentimes you're the one who's hiring, paying somebody, etc. But realtors choose who they put in front of you. So if they put someone in front of you and then shit talk them, take it up with your realtor.
Also, like, if you're, all right, I gotta stop because I'm about to start talking shit because that is
I'm
such
about
a
to
bad
pop
look.
off.
Here's the thing, this is not a solicitation,
This is
and
not a
we will see you again very soon.
Bye.